on my mirror if I don't see black. Like I never saw it. Like even the darkest Sudanese people, they are dark brown. They're not even black themselves. So like I just don't get what. Well, I get why they say black because like it's a status, but it's stupid that people really. Are you black? Just look at yourself. Like fuck, I'm not. A tiger is black. I'm not black. But
yeah, and if you look at Matt, he's definitely not white. He's more like a pink color, kind of like a farm pig.
Turkey hot dog or an uncooked hot dog is how I refer to us.
I'm like plywood. I do plywood color.
Plywood is
Perpetual sunburn is another way to describe it.
What's up,
Robert? Do you identify as white?
I like eggshell.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I got to give you a lot of credit because you are the first person who identifies as white that is willing to even acknowledge that we could have been lied about or given a convoluted version of history. So I do think we got to give him grace because he is willing to have a true conversation. But what he is saying is, please bring some evidence that we can really discuss.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Roger, he always seems to be objective in that way. And I always post stuff in the chat. I don't say shit without backing it. Yeah, I mean, look. All I can say is that if I were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they were to ask a question, where did Native Americans originate from? And they gave me 4 choices. I'm probably not going to go with Hakima's, version of where that answer would come from. I would bet that based on the answers that would be given on a popular TV show, and again, they could be wrong, but if I were trying to win $1 million, I would go with the answer that seems most reasonable based on the history that I'm familiar with, as what might be the correct answer to that $1 million question. And again, if I would have answered, yeah, hey, they're descendants from the Mongols. Yeah, everybody knows that. And then the answer is, hey, you got it wrong. And then all of a sudden, I didn't use my lifeline to call Hakima, and he would have said, I told you where they came from, right? And then I would just think, okay, now there's more to it, and I would take his sources more seriously. But my guess would be that I don't need to phone a friend for that question, that I would probably get that answer correct on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's what I
It's funny you use that. Hold on, let me say this real quick, Matt. It's funny you use Who Wants to Be a Millionaire because there's literally an episode where the question was, what continent is Egypt on? And Africa was not one of the fucking answers. And it wasn't even one of the choices. And the answer was Asia, which I'm totally calling bullshit on. And that just shows you how they rewrite history to now Egypt is not in Africa. And that literally it was a question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
That's hilarious.
Is it a racial slur? It's called. Okay, I'll ask this question. Is there a difference between American Indian and Native American and just an Indian?
Well, the first question you should ask when somebody says Indian is dots or feathers.
I think they call it derogatory. You call it a Native American Indian because they want to go with the story that Columbus was looking for India and thought he found it, and that's how the people got their name. But he was wrong because he got lost, which all that is bullshit. And so they call it derogatory to use the term Indian for that reason. But in reality, he knew exactly what he was looking for. He was looking for India, and he found the outskirts of India, which was like what he landed on Cuba somewhere, wherever he landed at. It's not the mainland, but
did he float around the Earth?
No, he came straight across the flat ocean, Matt. And whenever you see an ocean bending, let me know about it. Hey, cut a piece of the frozen water off a lake and put a level on it, or just put a level on the frozen lake and let me know if it got any curvature
I finally have discovered an argument that has made me curious about your claims about the shape of the Earth. And it's a friend of mine from this app that is planning a trip to the Americas, but also he's going to the Philippines first. And here's what I've learned is that when he goes to the Philippines and wants to go to the U.S. afterwards, the flight from the Philippines is going to take him back to Europe and then to the U.S. And I'm highly suspicious of why wouldn't they just cross the Pacific? That seems like a much shorter trip. And so I have to say, I've listened to you for hours about like the curvature shit and all this other stuff. But the fact that you wouldn't take the shorter trip and fly across the Pacific, my mind is reopened to the possibility that you can't travel across the Pacific, and we have to discover why.
Hey, that's the same thing. If you took a flight from Australia to Argentina or vice versa, they're going to take you to Europe first. Like, please explain me why you have to go to Europe from Australia to Argentina. But if you look at what people call a flat Earth map, I mean, I'm not saying that's 100% accurate, but it would make more sense because they are across from each other. I mean, not the hemisphere apart, like straight there. You have to go over Europe on the flat Earth map to get from Argentina to Australia. So I mean, there's a lot of people that dig into the flight paths and how that don't make sense. But it is weird that you always got to go to Europe. But Europe is like in the fucking middle of the flat Earth. That's why.
So if you say city Indian style, is that racist?
Now you trying to be racist, man. Just go ahead and say who.
That's why it's called crisscross applesauce.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, Kelly's just about to pull her hair out. I can just feel it from Texas.
No, so when you think of Native Americans, like what comes to mind? Like what stereotype first pops into your head? Because I have stereotypes that pop into my head, but I'm just kind of curious what pops into your head first.
A dude that wears a lot of feathers and is very dark complected with like the feathers over his genitalia and a string up his ass.
So you know what's interesting? I actually picture Filipino people sitting at a craps table in a casino that happens to be on native ground. That's what I picture.
You know what I picture? Hey, you know what I picture? I picture me.
Do you guys ever read about the genocide in Guatemala where the Guatemalans killed the Aztecs? Does anybody know about that story?
Well, they killed I never heard that. They killed the remnants of the Aztecs. How'd that work? Tell us the story.
I need to get my facts completely straight, but I was reading about like the term genocide came up, and I was looking at genocides through history, and I might even have it. I mean, it might be the Mayans, for fuck's sake. Anyways, but the Guatemalans apparently, like, in a very short period of time, killed a bunch of people, like, very, very rapidly. Like, it's like on par with like Cambodia, with the genocide in Cambodia. And I had never heard that Guatemala had a genocide. So anyway.
Guatemalans are very short people.
Hey, you know why they short, right, man?
Why?
Because they was colonized by the Spanish. The Spanish were shorter people.
The Spanish or the Mexicans?
That's just racist.
Yeah, it's Spanish or Mexicans?
The Spanish, the Mexicans were dark
is it racist to call someone from Mexico a Mexican, or do you call them Hispanic, or do you call them Latino? What's the difference?
Latino.
If you're in the U.S. and you're woke leftist, you call them Latinx.
Latinx.
The only relevant thing that you need to know about the difference between Hispanic and Latino is that one includes Spain and the one allows Brazil into it. That's it. There's basically no other difference.
But you don't say Mexicans anymore. Is that correct? Is that not?
Yeah, you don't say Mexicans, especially to certain people. Like, for example, it's more of a diasporic thing, and to where, like, you have, like, yeah, they're all Hispanic and they all speak Spanish or whatever. They have their own dialect, but at the same time, there's things where you get like in the U.S. where you have some cities or some people that just don't like each other, right? You know that people from New York and people from Boston, those motherfuckers are not going to get along. In the same way that some people from Puerto Rico and some people from the Dominican Republic won't get along. If you call a Bostoner a New Yorker, they'll get equally as offended as a Dominican would, if not worse, than being called like a Cuban or a Puerto Rican, right? It's just like, we understand why it's the catch-all term for Hispanics because it's the closest Latin American country that there is to the U.S. But it's like, when you say Mexicans in general, it's like there's a lot more to our culture than just what's south of the U.S. border. It's not just Mexico. We're distinct from them. That's why it feels offensive. It's not in a, like, we don't get what you're saying type of way. It's that what you're saying.
Para español, marque el 8.
We are experiencing long wait times to speak to an agent. If you are making a bill payment or want to check your balance, we encourage you to use our automated system. Use option 2, Pay Now, in the main menu. You can also go to comment.com to pay your bill or check your balance. Please note that your account balance may not reflect new payments made until the next business day. For electrical issues or power outages, press 1. To pay now, press 2. For everything else, press 3. Our office is currently closed, but we welcome you to continue using our automated system. In order to process your call, I'll need to look up your account. To access your account using your account number, press 1. Your phone number, press 2. If you're calling to set up a new account, press 3. Our offices are currently closed. However, you may still use this automated system for many common transactions. Main menu. You can say, balance information, billing and payments, start or stop service, or, if none of these apply, say, more options.
More options.
If you believe you have been the target of a phone scam or you feel you may have experienced suspicious behavior related to ComEd, press 1. To update your phone number, press 2. For help with the website, press 3. Energy, supplier information or changes. 4. Energy conservation and rewards programs. 5. Everything else, press 6. Our offices are currently closed. Please call again during our normal business hours Monday through Friday 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay, back to the
Because
Hitler
of
show.
the Trujillo regime and everything that came before that as well, with like the Haitian Dominican Civil War going on during that time too. Colonization by the French on the Haitians and then the Spanish on us. It wasn't too pretty at the time, but a lot of the I know black, I Dominican, type of rhetoric goes towards more of anti-Haitian sentiment to anti-black sentiment, even though they're one and the same thing in one sense. You could, the big distinction is during the Trujillo regime, like throughout the 50s and early 40s, et cetera, it wasn't looking too great, and there's lots of white supremacist sentiments in DR during that time. Like, unfortunately, the story I always tell to show what the sentiment feels like and how it still has lasting effects till today is that grandma, I have a little cousin, she was like 14 at that time. She got her first boyfriend, happened to be some dark-skinned Haitian kid, right? She tells my grandma that it's a Haitian kid. Grandma, without even knowing what this kid looks like, without even knowing shit about him, starts falling into fucking tears, like, oh my gosh, she's Haitian, why? Like, this type of shit, right? So, like, a lot of it is based off around, like, the conflicts that we had internally on the...
Hey, I wanted to say something about there's someone in the chat that keeps saying, all you have to do is do your DNA. All you have to do is do your DNA. Well, DNA and genealogy are different concepts.
Yep.
They're related. Because, your DNA will tell you where it thinks, you're from in terms of those regions, but it doesn't have that accuracy, of course, as your actual lineage and your genealogy, which is the study of your family and your family history. Like, for example, in my DNA, I don't have Native American doesn't come up, but like my fifth great grandmother was a woman from the Houma Nation in Louisiana. A dude came over from France, my fifth great grandfather, and married her. But then there was a European, a man from England, who came and he was a slave owner. His descendant was a slave owner in Kentucky who raped my fifth great grandmother, Matissa, who's from Africa. So you can learn your family lineage and learn more about your actual lineage versus your DNA. So they're two kind of different things.
Yeah,
I'm not a scholar.
When you're looking at like the Y haplogroup, you're not wrong on this. When you're looking at the Y haplogroup for the most part, because I have to go through this with the Israelites 24/7. When you're looking at the Y haplogroup for the most part, it's not going to give you the exact region where you're from. It's going to trace down the paternal Y marker that's there in order to tell you a genuine idea of what haplogroup they pertain to. Now, haplogroups in general have places where that haplogroup is mainly prominent in their descents from, but again, haplogroup in itself doesn't give a 100% determinate as to a geographical location. So, for example, my haplogroup would be R1b. That descends back to Spain. That makes a lot of sense considering I'm Dominican and the history that Spain has with colonization of the Dominican Republic, right? But when we go to somebody else, they may be E1B1A. That may trace back to West Africa, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that anything in their recent lineage or history or anything that they know about themselves may be of West Africa. That's just where their lineage traces back to, right? So what you're saying isn't off the rockers at all. It's completely...
Yeah, and to make it even simpler, if you have the DNA of a person who might be from that region and they fucking go somewhere else, and start to cohabitate from an entirely different region, that changes your lineage and where you're.
But for the most part, Hakima, just to wrap that section up, it's just lots of anti-Haitian sentiment that was instilled during one of the dictatorships that we had that still runs rampant, at least in the roots of a lot of people today when it comes to denying their blackness in a way to distance themselves from being Haitian or being associated with the people that were enslaved during our time in the transatlantic slave trade.
You know what? I wanted to weigh in on that one too. I used to live in Wandolio, by the way, in the DR, and I learned about so much in terms of that history, because I was like, why do you feel that way about Haitians? And then they started telling me what had been done to them prior to that by Haitians. And I think so many people just get one part of the story, so I find that very interesting too. Bubby, is that your name?
Yeah, it's we have, depending on what side of the island you come from, there's a lot of revisionist history or different history that may come out about like what happened, who instigated what. In my opinion, I'm personally in the belief that unfortunately, my people, we instigated a lot of that shit in DR. Now, was it our fault necessarily? I won't say it's completely our fault, because I believe it's the dictatorship that really fucked it over for us. I don't think that was the sentiment of most people prior to the dictatorship. but I would say that a lot of the conflicts, at least on the island between Haitians and Dominicans, a lot of it did start from antagonism on our side, and I won't. And there's no reason or anything to gain about lying about it. It's just what happened in history. It's unfortunate, but it's what happened. And at least from that take, it seems like a lot of the, especially 40s and onwards, seems like let's try to revise as much as we can to make it seem like we're not as bad of guys as we were in history, et cetera, et cetera. Let's just distance ourselves as much as possible from what that event was or what can even correlate us to that event. So we get out of that anti-Haitian sentiment, revisionist history sentiment, and also anti-black sentiment, you get the I know black-eyed Dominican stereotype that happens a lot, which unfortunately is the case for a lot of my people, but there is a subsection of us that understand where we actually come from.
Yeah, I think you're onto something when you say that, because when you talk about dictatorships and when you also talk about colonization, it's interesting. Even when people talk about the reparations discussion, they're like, well, you should ask for reparations for those Africans that also sold you, because all of those tribes, the Homie and all the rest of them, those places don't exist anymore because they were decimated and destabilized by those same colonizers. So it's just like, a lot of that does.
No, if you go to, make sure you go to the tourist studies, do yourself a favor.
Yeah, I'm probably about whether or not Creole people were black the other day. But yeah, I lived in Wandolio for a while, and it was almost a year. We were shooting a movie for Sony, and it was cool because I actually fit right in. But I know what you mean. I did not see a lot of dark skinned people there, but from what I understand, people come over from Haiti to work and do that sort of thing. I wasn't nowhere near the border.
So at least over there, most of the immigration we have of people coming to work, we'll have a lot of Haitians, we'll have Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and Jamaicans for the most part will be the ones that come over and work in DR, at least from my experience, because I go there every year, maybe once or twice at least, to go visit back family, and that's usually what I got going there. But